Hello everyone, live or at least in one take, it's the post-election edition of the Michigan Realtors Government Affairs Videocast. I'm Brad Ward.
And I'm Brian Westgren.
Well, everyone is probably a little tired, a little bleary-eyed after a long night of election returns. Pleased to report here, RPAC in Michigan did a very, very good job across the board. 96% rate, success rate, I should say, for our endorsements on both sides of the aisle. Two Supreme Court justices that RPAC endorsed, David Viviano and Justice Joan Larson, will be returning to the Michigan Supreme Court bench. And we had some local success as well, Brian.
Yeah, this is a year that we were able to, through the IMF, actually identify some local township races, and in fact areas where we've been kind of focusing on some of the ordinances, and to find out that a Realtor member was in fact running for a township supervisor in Penfield Township. We were happy to support Mr. Dave Morgan for Penfield Township supervisor, and he prevailed last night.
So yeah, glad to send realtors back to the state legislature, glad to send realtor members to their local elected offices. So all in all, should be a very, very good election for Realtor Party candidates. Looking ahead, we have a time here that's coming up called Lame Duck, which many can classify as anything but lame in some of the history. It's the time when we have what are known as term limits here in Michigan. So we have 1/3 of the House of Representatives, roughly, that won't be returning because they're bumping up against their 6-year cap. So we have a time when those folks won't be returning. There's a lot of important legislation that's trying to make its way through in a very, very short time frame in which to get those bills to the governor's desk before everything restarts with the new session. A few of those bills in particular to us as the Michigan Realtors. One, Senate Bill 26, sponsored by Senator Mike Kowal.
And Senate Bill 26 is a perfect example because we spent the last 2 years working on this piece of legislation, and it represents very lockstep work with the department to codify existing rules that need to be put in statute, but also identifying some areas of our occupational code that could be improved. For instance, some areas like making sure that long-distance learning and education is available, also allowing the department to communicate electronically with licensees, in many ways streamlining and providing efficiencies for licensees in Michigan.
Yeah, we've been working with the department over the last couple years to really find those efficiencies to provide better service to all of Michigan real estate licensees. Senate Bill 26 did pass the Senate a couple weeks ago. 37-0 was the vote. It's now referred to the House Committee on Regulatory Reform, and we've been meeting with members of that committee to make sure that we can get this bill up in a timely fashion so it does become one of those successful victories for us in Lame Duck. Also, another bill that we're watching is transformational brownfields. This was a very exciting piece of legislation that came from really kind of guided by Senator Ken Horn, that we and a lot of local chambers of commerce, some commercial developers have gotten behind to really look at how do we create big transformational projects for our urban cores, for our cities and townships that can latch on to the theories of smart growth, mixed use, and those bills are currently on the Senate floor. We do know that there are, some issues here in terms of Governor Snyder came in and really wanted to make sure that, as far as tax credits, which these bills do operate off of what is known as a TIF or a tax increment financing act. The bills are a tax credit, and Governor Snyder, when he was elected, really wanted to focus on kind of lowering the number of credits that we hand out, picking winners and losers, and focus on a low tax rate for all, so lower credits, lower rate for all across the board. So there is a philosophical barrier that we're meeting with the Department of Treasury and the governor's office. We've been talking through a lot of those. There's a big coalition that's kind of behind these bills, but it would be exciting. I know that Dan Gilbert has announced that if these bills do pass, he's got a big plan for downtown Detroit that could be very exciting. I know other folks in Jackson are looking at this as some possibilities that could happen there. So this is a bill that we will continue to maintain on our radar as we move through the lame duck session.
And last but not least, a bill that we've talked about in previous videocasts is House Bill 5578, sponsored by Realtor member Dave Maturin. We have been working through the steps as that passed out of the House. As you all recall, that is the piece of legislation geared towards dark stores, which we have rebranded as sound appraisal principles legislation.
Yep.
And that is awaiting a hearing in Senate Finance right now, but Michigan Realtors public policy staff has been meeting with members of the Senate to make sure that everybody understands exactly what the legislation stands for. And quite simply, the legislation stands for the employment of sound appraisal principles by the tax tribunal, making sure that valuation in the way that it is scrutinized at the tax tribunal is in fact fair and balanced.
Yeah, the bill passed the House overwhelmingly right before they broke for the election season. It's over in the Senate Finance Committee, and we're hoping that the bill can receive a hearing here and maybe a vote by the Senate before the legislature wraps up for the season. One thing I want to draw your attention to is to stay on top of all of these topics and more. The way to get the latest cutting edge calls for action, things like that, is to text Michigan Realtor, or MI Realtor, to 30644. That will keep you in touch with us and the National Association of Realtors on legislation as it happens, calls to action as they go out. It's a click, and you're in contact with your legislature. So I encourage everyone watching this videocast, if you haven't already signed up for the text message program, and I will direct your attention to this.
30644.
Rocking it out. Here we are. That's it for today's videocast. I am Brad Ward.
And I am Brian Western.
Have a good one, everyone.